Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Revenge of the Plot Bunnies. I am your host, Kayan Lee, and today we have a special guest. He is an author. He writes in the high fantasy genre. We have Jeff Kohanek.
There you go. Hey there. Thanks for having me.
I got it. We passed the first test.
Yep, there you go.
How are you today? Where are you coming from?
I'm doing great. I actually live in Las Vegas now, so I'm here in Las Vegas.
Lovely. That's a new development, right? You're fresh into Las Vegas?
Yeah, I was in Southern California for like 19 years, and I grew up in northern Minnesota and lived in Minnesota before that. So
so you're Midwest too.
Yeah. So
okay, cool.
West Coast.
I love that. What took you from the Midwest to the West Coast?
Well, just escape winter.
Yeah.
Escape the mosquitoes, because mosquitoes are pretty bad in Minnesota in the summer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's a change of scenery and kind of new opportunities for our family.
That's good. Lovely. So I titled this episode How Indiana Jones Inspired One Author. But I would love to know, what were your main sources of inspiration?
Well, I've been reading epic fantasy almost exclusively since junior high. So somewhere along, I read a bunch of genres, and then I think I was about 13 or 14 when I read the Belgariad, and for some reason that series, it just grabbed a hold of me and my imagination, in a way that some others hadn't. And then from there on, I never turned back. So inspiration comes across, many hundreds, if not, thousands of fantasy books I've read over the years. And then, great fun movies like Indiana Jones, which you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that you said that. It's actually really cool, because I've only met a few people who know that series, and I was obsessed as a kid. I read Paul Gara so much that the book it's just completely in tatters.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love
that. Thank you. Yeah. Do you feel like your joy for fantasy was somewhat of an escape for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, totally. It's kind of, so it's like going to a movie, but I consider it next level, because in movies, somebody else is directing and you just kind of see what they directed. When you're reading a book, you're the director. Your imagination is taking that script and viewing it like in a different way, right? So it's just more immersive.
That's so true. And I love that. Just thinking about like how stories are crafted, I recently got a little bit deeper into how even Stephen King likes to not over explain so much how the characters look, because he likes for us to kind of envision that ourselves. Like, he doesn't want to take away the fun in that.
Right. Yeah. And like Brandon Sanderson does the same thing. It's basically, and I try to do the same, like paint an image enough so that they can fill in the rest, and that's about it.
Yeah, I love that. And Brandon Sanderson, definitely one of my top 3 authors of all time. Stephen King, Brandon Sanderson, and Anne Rice those are my top 3. But I definitely grew up reading a lot of Terry Goodkind as well. What would you say were your the authors who you kind of look at as a mentor, even if they don't know it?
So I mean, Sanderson, we already mentioned him, so he's definitely on the list. And his YouTube writing videos, they're wonderful, right? So I watched all those, and but I was first introduced to him when I was reading Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. So I love that series. It's long. There's a lot there, but the characters and the world, it's probably my favorite overall. But Sanderson finished that series. He wrote the last 3 books, and as soon as I learned that, I went out and I bought like Mistborn and read that series, and then read a few other series, and so that's how I was introduced to him. to begin
Yeah,
with.
once you get one of his stories, you have to naturally get all of them. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely went on a binge of Brandon Sanderson exclusively for a bit. But yeah, I love that he got to finish a series that were so dear to us. And the fact that it's long and there's so much is such a plus because we never want our fantasy stories to end. We want to live there as long as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if I had a dream job, it would be to get approached by Robert Jordan's estate and say, "Hey, could you write a spin-off series featuring Matt Coffin?" Just like Matt and his band of the Red Hand and them doing their things after, Wheel of Time is done. Like, I would love that. That would be
I could see how excited you got about that. That does sound incredible. Do you think that those writing techniques or those characters inspired your writing at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're like I have a bunch of series set in a world called Wizardoms, and Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time was probably the biggest influence on that. But there are other influences, but in Wheel of Time, I mentioned Matt. He was my favorite character, and he's more like the rogue thief kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I'm going to write a series like that, but my central character is going to be the rogue thief, not the powerful magic user or a king or a valiant warrior or anything. There are those people in there, but like the central character is a thief named Jarrell, but he goes by the name Jace because nobody trusts him anymore because he became too famous as a thief, right? So it's a whole fun thing. Yeah, there's a big influence there, and I mentioned characters. Characters are like the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
So setting important, super important, plot important, magic system important. All these things are great, but I gotta have really good characters, memorable characters. So that's where I always thought.
Yeah, I love that so much. One of the first conferences I ever went to was a mystery writers, and I've never written mystery. Didn't have a desire to, but I was just like, it's in my town, and I'm just eager and thirsty for all the knowledge. And one of the things I learned there was just like, taking a genre or a concept and flipping it. So I love how you want to take the rogue who would not normally be the main character and letting them have a spotlight. I adore that in any story. Like, I won't give away the the ending of Mistborn, but it was a great ending because the person who saved the world wasn't the person you were expecting.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same for like Harry Potter, which I don't think I'm spoiling anything, but having Neville come and be that, that hero was just chef's kiss.
Yeah. It's fun to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it isn't even planned. Like for me, because I'm writing in the characters' heads, and the scene is happening, and maybe a bunch of characters are there. And all of a sudden, the character you didn't expect is the one who ends up saving the day.
Yes.
Like, oh, that's fun.
I love that you said that. That's the most magical part of writing is you can have the most defined plot and outline and everything. But the characters, when they say, actually, I like this better, that's when it just takes it to a whole nother level.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm definitely a pantser. Whenever I try to outline, I do it, but I rarely can stay within those confines. Are you a pantser or an outliner?
Yeah, well, I started as an outliner. So my first series, I outlined pretty heavily.
Yeah.
And the more I write, the more I pants. So right now, like I have a vague idea where a story ends, and it might be a series. Okay, so is it going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 books? I'm not sure. I know where it ends. I have no idea how it's going to get there. So let's go.
I love that so much. It's good to know how your brain works because I think for some people they have to have that rigid outline and that works for them. But it's nice to give yourself some room to grow with the story and surprise yourself.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, I found that, like I said, writing inside the characters' heads, a lot of times stories would get better because I let the characters do what their personality was just going to make happen.
Yes.
Once I kind of discovered that, I'm like, well, I'm just going to do more of that. And, I'll add plot points, or, I'll be like, oh, it's time for a quest story. We should figure out a quest and, to keep this thing going. And yeah, so I'll interject purposely, and otherwise let my characters just do their thing.
Do you do a lot of world building before you start your stories?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Tons of it.
Okay.
Now, to tell you the truth, I've written, my 27th novel comes out at the end of October.
Congrats.
And that's only in 2 worlds. So
yeah.
I've only do world building twice. But once you have a world built, and especially if you leave enough vacant room for stories to be told there and discoveries to be made, then you just kind of go with it. But yeah, I always make a map at the beginning. Like, I got to know, like, if I'm going to travel from point A to point B, are there mountains? Is there a desert? Is there a chasm? How, these are challenges, right? And it impacts the journey. And then maybe along the way, there are things that aren't on the map that, they stumble across the ruins of an old castle and it's haunted, and it's haunted by a werewolf that was turned, or a man who's turned into a wolf by a curse, and now they have to battle this wolf, and they kill the wolf and they end the curse, like whatever, right? So
I love that. That's so much fun to have that power to just create a whole world. Like, that is so special.
Yeah, and if you do it right, these things are connected, right? So you can talk about. So I just mentioned a curse. Well, maybe there was a curse that affected a family for many years, but nobody would say what it was, and another character behaved a certain way, but nobody understood it. Well, it's because of the curse. He's worried about that happening to him. But yeah, I guess it's developing the world and then like tying all the different knots together, so that when a reader reads story A and they've read your other series, they're like, oh, I recognize this place, and I recognize that enchanted item, and now I know where it came from, and that person was in the other story, right? You get cameos.
Yes.
Doing all that stuff.
That is fun. Do you have like a series Bible, or do you ever lose track? Like, I wrote this character. What do they look like again? Like,
I lose track. So I don't have a Bible. My guilty. It's like when I went to school, I never took notes. I just am guilty of it because I never looked at my notes. So why do I take them?
Yes.
So I just try to remember everything. But it's getting harder because I'm not as young as I was back then. So what I do is I'll open up a PDF of a book, or like, okay, I know this character was in that book, and I'll do a search for that character name and look for the description. Like, okay, now I got it, and I write the character in and keep going. So I have to do research all the time on my own stuff.
Sometimes it's good. That's a benefit of having like really good, like really devoted beta readers, because sometimes they'll be like, wait a minute, I remember in book 7 you said this, and now this. What?
Yeah, that comes up from time to time. I'm like, oh, thank you, I'll fix that. And there you go.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is. I guess that's the one of the pitfalls of being a creator is keeping up with everything you've created. It's like it becomes so intense.
Yeah.
I have a question for you though.
Okay.
Oh no, go ahead. You were going to say something. I was just
going to say I don't ever take the time to stop writing to write a story Bible, because by the time I'm done writing a session, like I just need to walk away. I need to take a break.
Yes.
So that's where I'm at.
No, that's good that you do that though, that you take a little, I'm glad you said that, because I think it is important. Like, we get into this, we have like this ticker, at least I do. And I know some other authors have like this timer within us, like you write the story and then you give it to the readers, and then an hour later or a day later, they're like, it's done. When's the next one? And you're like, that pressure. It's like,
that took me 3 months to write. You ready to
No. Yeah. But that's also, it's a blessing, that you have them and they're like so eager to devour it. And they're like, I had to study for my exams and I didn't do it because I wanted to read your story. Like, it's a compliment that it becomes intense. Do you ever feel like you have to set boundaries with your readers? Do they ever do that to you? Because for a minute, mine were aggressive. They were like, where's that next one? I'm like,
Yeah, I don't really set any boundaries. I I love engaging with readers. So I try to do it all the time, and rarely does an email sit in my inbox for more than a day. Or
Yeah.
message, same thing, right? So I want to let them know that I appreciate them, right?
That's
So
good.
it's a kind of symbiotic relationship, right?
Yes.
Like I
Yes.
don't have a job if I don't have them, and if I'm not writing, they can't read my stories. They can read other stories, but if they really like mine, they're going to want mine, right? So yeah, we have to make that work.
I love that. So the name of this show is Revenge of the Plot Bunnies, but it sounds like you do a pretty good job with staying within two worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've written only one genre. Like I intend to write urban fantasy. I even have ideas for
Cool.
the series, but I'm like, well, I've got all these epic fantasy series I have to finish, right? That are in my head. So I'm still
You
trying to
don't
do
let the
that.
plot bunnies defeat you.
No, yeah, I'm pretty good about that for the most
That's
part.
good. That's good. You set boundaries with those bunnies.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, you end up having more ideas than you have time to write, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've got 4 series just waiting in the wings. It's all in my head. But now I got to finish the one I just started.
Yeah, that could be hard because, and I'm glad that you have that restraint and that power to stick with one thing. Because like every time I go to a movie, I'm like, oh man, I got this idea, but I just have like this whole like this master notes of all these ideas, and I'm like, can I get through them in this lifetime?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
I hear you.
it's fun though. That I mean, some people have a hard time coming up with ideas, so it's good that that's a problem. But I'm curious about the picture behind you. This lovely Egyptian picture behind you. Do you ever
Yeah.
derive any inspiration from like Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology? Um,
Yeah, a bit.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got some of that in my books. I mean, for the most part, it's kind of derivative of classic like Tolkien-esque fantasy, right? But there are elements of Greek and Roman and Egyptian, maybe cultures and enchanted items and that kind of stuff going on. I mean, I've got a series. So you talk about Indiana Jones. I have a series called Tour the Dungeon Crawler. He literally Indiana Jones in a fantasy world. So his job is he's a relic hunter, and he leads a team of relic hunters. And
Brilliant.
it's kind of a fun, fast-paced series where there's a smaller scope, right? So the plots are more like one movie at a time. There is an overarching story between like the 3 books I've got out so far, but it's almost like you went to a trilogy of fast-paced action movies, and that's what you got. So yeah, I call it D&D meets Indiana Jones, even though Indy and Indiana Jones there's a lot of overlap, right? And you're going through dungeons and you're looking for items and all that stuff, but I like the reference because of the swashbucklingness of it. So.
That sounds fantastic. Definitely putting that on my TBR list because I too grew up with Indiana Jones, and I either wanted to be, I knew I wanted to be a writer, but I also thought that I wanted to be an archaeologist or a ninja.
There you go. That's awesome.
Yeah. Did you ever have any aspirations to do anything outside of writing or any other callings?
I mean,
Yeah.
So for me, when I went to college, I was told, you should do something. Don't do something creative because it's hard to make a living.
Right.
So they're like, oh, you're good at math, and you're good at drawing and be creative. Why don't you become an engineer? So I became an engineer. And then as an engineer, I realized you don't get to decide what you create. You just create what somebody told you to. So then I became the guy who tells the engineer what to create, which is a product manager. So basically, I did that for 25 years. And as my kids got older in high school, about to graduate, and I started getting more time, like, I'm going to start writing on the side. I'm going to pull up that creative writing, those courses I took in high school and college, and we're going to give it a go. And I don't know, like 5 years later, I quit my day job because I was making enough money writing books. And now I've been just full-time writer for 3.5 years.
That's really special. And I'm glad you told that story, because I don't know how this happened, but all of my male friends are engineers. Every single one is an engineer. And they read my books and they're always like, I don't know if I could do that. It's like, so it's very fascinating to see someone that is an engineer using that right brain. Is it the right brain or left brain that is for technology? And I always get them mixed up. But to see that you can pull that out and you can do, handle both worlds is like super inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, for an engineer, I was like, there's scale for engineers, right?
Yeah.
You've got your super, super crazy smart tech guys. They're writing code and like doing all this stuff. And that's not me. I was on the other end. I was more like, well, I'm the engineer who is good at talking to people and leading people and kind of leading creative ventures and that kind of thing. So I'm like, well, I'm kind of more in the middle. So it's not that hard for me to go over to the other side and be creative, because I was kind of like foot in both worlds anyway.
Well, that's really cool. So there's like a spectrum of engineers. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody who works in engineering or project management, or like you work with engineers, you realize that there's a spectrum.
Yeah. So you already answered one of the questions I had for you, that you did take some classes to assist you with your craft. What was it like for you? Did those courses help you gain any confidence in your writing or encouragement?
It's a long time ago. So,
yeah.
so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is, in my professional career for a long time, my only creative writing would have been like product sheets, which is you try to sell a product to somebody so that your creativeness is getting them to understand that this product solves their problems, right? So that's how it was for a long time. But when I started writing again, I was able to get more into the creative part. But it took me a year just to have a first draft of book one. And it took me another 6 months before it was edited well enough where I could actually publish it or show it to other people. And then even after that, every book I wrote for a long time, I could tell that my writing got better and better, right? So even now, like I said, I'm 27 novels in, and I'm still getting a little bit better, because the more you write, it's like anything. The more you practice something, the better you get.
Right.
So
my
first stories, while they're dear to my heart, and there are a lot of people who absolutely adore them, I have a hard time reading them because I want to edit them and rewrite them with my current writer self, But if I did that, it would be a never-ending loop. I go through all my books over and over again until
That resonates on a soul level. The first book I ever wrote, I cringe, and it's still so beloved by like the readers, but like you know your progression. And I'm just like, oh my God, all the things I would change. But it's like, don't do it. There's other new things that need your attention. And if you want to see the evolution of an author, look at their first published book and their latest published book, and you will see huge change. And I think it's important. Yeah.
You see it across the board. Like go read Sanderson's Warbreaker, right?
Yeah.
So it's his first novel. Then read, one of the Stormlight Archive books, and you can see there's a difference, right?
Yeah.
So
even for Sanderson.
For everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is really lovely to. I think you have to give yourself grace, because like it can sometimes get into a realm of being a perfectionist when you feel that tug to like go and revise everything you've ever done and bring it all to the same scale. But I love that you also shared that you kind of moonlit as an author before you took the plunge, which is a good thing because people feel like it's all or nothing, but it really isn't. You can write on the side. That's what I did. I was a nanny and I was writing every nap time and all weekend and every night. And
it helps a lot if you have a job that is conducive to writing, like you just mentioned. For me, I traveled a lot. So I traveled 25% of the time. When anybody knows, if you travel for work, you're waiting in an airport, you're on a plane you can watch a movie or you could write. And then you're in a hotel, you can watch TV or you can write. Like, so I wrote in cabs. I wrote on, like anywhere I traveled, I wrote.
That's great.
And the great thing about that is I can write anywhere with like background noise does not distract me at all.
Yes,
Right? So
same.
I've learned to just, well, time to write. So I just start writing, and my wife will be talking to me, and wait, what? I didn't hear anything you said. Yeah.
I know that's so cool because I'm the same. Like I prefer to go to the coffee shop and like, because also writing could be such a solitary thing. So it kind of feels nice to be in society and like at least when I'm not interacting with these people, but like I'm amongst the community.
Right. Like a kid playing by themselves by other kids.
Right.
Like, you're not playing with them, but
exactly
here by the other kids. Yeah.
So you mentioned your wife. Like, how was your support system? Like, what was that like? Was she encouraging? Like, were your family? What do they think about? Like, I'm gonna leave my engineering and do this.
Yeah, it's been really great.
That's good.
I didn't. I wrote for 6 months before I even mentioned it to anybody.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of doing it in secret. But yeah, it's been really great. And when it came time where like I want to leave my job, she's like, if you think you can make it work, make it work. So we made it work, and things have been good. Like I said, 3.5 years, and it's really hasn't impacted us negatively.
Good.
Yeah, so that's all good. And in the end, I'm doing something that's much more rewarding to me personally. Like I read all the reviews and I love the great ones, and I cry a little bit about them. But when you have fans reach out to you and tell you how much they love what you write, like that's super rewarding.
Yeah.
And to have something rewarding like that, it makes a big difference. So even though I spend a lot of time, I mean, my hours, I average at least 60 hours a week. Right?
Yeah.
And weekend days, well, I don't take weekend days off unless we're going somewhere or we have guests over. Otherwise, I write. And even then, I always do like business stuff in the morning for at least an hour or two, no matter where I am. Right. So, yeah, you give up a lot, but at the same time, I don't have a commute. My commute is, just to my living room or my den or wherever. Right. And, I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't have anybody telling me what I have to do and when I have to do it. I travel, if I want to travel to a Dragon Con, right, where I went to see like in Atlanta, I just can do it. I don't get forced to do it when I don't want to do it. Yeah,
right.
So it's great. So
I love that.
All good. But yeah, support's been great. My wife, she actually is one of my proofreaders.
Aww.
So she reads every one of my books. My parents read every one of my books. Funny, I'd never ever thought that they would have read fantasy, but they feel like it. So.
You converted them. That's so special.
Yeah.
I love hearing that. It makes me so happy when we have people who support our vision and our dreams. It just adds another layer, and that dopamine surge we get from a reader writing us with like how much they loved it is unmatched.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Because like it's interesting how you said that you wrote in secret for 6 months and it was so personal and so private. What was it like finally sharing that?
Sharing the first book?
Yeah.
Sharing the first book was a little interesting. I don't know. I guess I'm like, so if we go to a club and there's karaoke, I'm the first one to sign up and go on stage. I love doing that stuff, right? Yes. So I like to put myself out there, but it was a little different because it is more personal.
Yes.
Right? Like, okay, well, what if nobody likes it? What if it's not great? Like, but once I got the first one out there, it was easier. It got easier and easier. And now I can't wait to get a new story out to my readers.
Yay.
And hear how much they enjoy it. And you know what? Even if some don't, that's fine, because even Harry Potter has people who are like, I tried to read those books. I hated them. Right. So it's like the best book selling series in the world. Right. So no one book is for everybody. So
that's true.
Just the way it is.
That's one thing you learn is
we have to suck it up and understand.
That's right. That's right. No matter how hard you try, you can't please everyone. You just can't. And that's okay, because your writing will magnetize the people who are meant to read it, which I truly believe in.
Yeah, in the end, I'm writing the stories that I would want to read.
Yes.
Which makes it more fun for me, right? Because and I feel like I'm filling a gap because I'm self-publishing, and trad publishing is not, they're publishing almost nothing in the kind of the traditional fantasy genre anymore, right? It's got to
That
be,
is fascinating. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you see, yeah, Sanderson's an exception, right? But like for the most part, you see a lot of stuff that is outside of what we talk traditional epic fantasy.
Right.
Granted, mine are faster paced than the old school, thick tomes. But yeah, those are stories that I really loved, and I wanted more of them. And I don't want to just reread the same stories over and over, because those are the ones I see on the bookshelf in the store.
Yes.
So I write those stories, and there are other people like me who want to read those stories. So, we're good partners together.
That's great. Yeah, that's such a pure place to write from, because there are other people out there like you who want to hear those stories. So, taking that and creating something that will reach those readers is so special.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, this has been so lovely to chat with you today. I'm so grateful that you took the time out and you met with me, and you gave some really, really inspirational content that I hope will reach people and let them know you can do your passion while you're doing your other job, and then take that leap of faith, and how rewarding it can be. Not only internally, but materially.
Yeah. Well, I hope it can inspire people. That's also rewarding.
It is. So tell us where we can find you and find your books.
Okay. My website is jeffreylkohanek.com, and that's Kohanek. So you can find everything there. I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, again, Jeffrey L. Kohanek. And I frequent groups and stuff on Facebook, so you can find me poking around. Email, it's easy to find my email anywhere you can find me. Like, you go to my Amazon author page. You can email me and reach out. I love to hear from you. And then my books, I've got tons of books. So, if you find one that you enjoy, hopefully you'll enjoy them all. And my newest one comes out October 24th. And that is called The First Wizard.
Ooh.
And so, it's kind of a unique thing. Like, I always wonder, like, how does the first ever wizard come into the world? Well, that's what this story is. Way, way, way back in the distant past of my Wizardoms books, where wizards rule the world. So this is way before that.
That sounds amazing. I love that. Thank you so much, everyone. Please rate the channel, share, comment. So grateful for you all. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.